So many things had to fall into place to bring the law to fruition. It was an enormous effort by so many people. I mean, that was one of the great gratifications, is to see how many people came forward to donate their expertise, their prodigious intellect, the resources of legal services, representation, funds to make it all happen. It was very, very gratifying to see all these people come forward and saying, we want to help. How can we help? The First Unitarian Church in Portland was one of the organizations that came forward and said, how can we help? And the image that people conjure up when you say church basement is the right image. It wasn't exactly a basement, though. It was a little annex. It was a little cubby down a dark little alley of property that the church owned. It was dilapidated. It was a tear down just waiting, to be torn down.
And why did you have to meet there?
It was a free space. It was a free space, and the church was behind the effort. The First Unitarian Church in Portland was one of the organizations that came forward and said, how can we help? I would say the overriding sentiment, the overriding feeling, if you were to enter that room and there were maybe at any given time 12 people around the table hammering this out over months, I would say the feeling state you would get is tedium. It was hard work. Writing anything by committee is hard work. The focus was like a laser on individual choice, individual control. So we saw ourselves and crafted every part of the law around it. We saw ourselves as empowering patients, individuals. We did not see ourselves as empowering physicians. So it was very, very important for us to make sure that the control resided with the patient from the beginning to the end, from the first request to the act of ingestion. And that, as it turns out, has been crucial, I think, to the success for all these years. Oregon was the first state to authorize medical aid in dying for a number of reasons. A number of factors came together. But one of the main things, I think perhaps the most important, is that Oregon had already had an exhaustive, difficult conversation at the community level. We had had a difficult conversation that was structured around the Oregon Health Plan that was about how do we make sense of the difference between treatments that are very, very invasive, very burdensome, but don't do much good in terms of lengthening life, and those treatments that might be relatively simple and are miraculous in transforming the course of an illness. Oregonians had already grappled with those questions about where do we put the greatest value? And we put the greatest value in low-intensity procedures and treatments that offer the greatest benefit. It's interesting to me in retrospect, I did not anticipate all the other components that would also have to fall in place, the legal defenses at the state and the national level, because we ended up defending the law, in every branch of government, the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, both federally and locally. And I think when people hear a terminal prognosis now in Oregon, there's a little foundation of hope there, because they don't necessarily descend right away into their worst nightmare. How much will I suffer? What will I have to go through? What will my death look like? There's always that possibility that I could die in my sleep, which is kind of everyone's hope. Kim came to Compassionate Choices at a pivotal time when the organization and the movement was kind of on a catapult. And the catapult was Brittany Menard and her story and the way the movement exploded after that. Then came passage of the California End-of-Life Options Act. Then came a campaign in Colorado, which was another ballot initiative. The organization was on the edge of becoming exactly the kind of organization that needed Kim's particular talents. She is the perfect person to lead Compassionate Choices at this point in its history and at this point in the history of the movement. The broadening of the movement and the diversification of the movement. Kim is absolutely dedicated to that. She has been spectacularly successful at that. That will continue to grow and strengthen our movement. It's a very, very important component. Another one is tying Compassionate Choices and end-of-life options into the whole fabric, weaving that into the whole fabric of human rights that are under challenge now like never before. And so joining hands with other organizations who have other issues about bodily autonomy and the ability to make decisions for ourselves, for our lives, based on our values, our beliefs. It's not limited to medical aid and dying at the end of life. It's also reproductive choice and LGBTQ issues, and certainly the inequities that have so influenced the quality of medical care, the quality of health care that people in diverse communities receive in the United States. The impact of the book, I hope, and is intended, is to broaden the scope of the principles behind medical aid and dying, that is, autonomous self-determination, and to say they apply not only at the end of life, they apply throughout the course of your life with respect to every medical decision that is made. Every medical decision should be a balance of the benefits of this treatment and the burdens of this treatment weighed on the fulcrum of my values and my beliefs. It's been a very, very gratifying journey for me. I've gotten to work with extraordinary people. I've got to be close with so many people who are facing the end of their lives so bravely, so courageously, and they want to be part of something that makes it better for those who come after. So they give up their privacy, they tell their stories, they go to extraordinary lengths, expending precious energy to testify in legislatures, to be plaintiffs in lawsuits. There's so much heroism in this movement. It's an honor, to be part of it.